on time. So hello, welcome to this IG Live. This will last about 25 minutes, not too long, but this is just self-care action planning. But be sure to stick around for our entire session. We will also be letting you know who is the recipient of our holiday giveaway for healthcare workers, and I will let you know how you can actually access a free PDF template so that you can download a self-care action plan as well and personalize it to fit your needs. So briefly, my name is Shauntel and I am the founder of chartlife.com. And Chart Life, that's life with a Y, is basically a place where we've pull together a lot of resources that are specific for health professionals. So you can find things on there like our event calendar, and anyone can add an event to this. So those events are specific for health professionals. So if you are looking for things like hello to those of you that have just joined as well, you can find things in our events calendar. Nicole is here, who is with Unwound Retreats. She will find retreats that she hosts and events that she hosts that are specific to nurses. You'll find things like support groups on there, as well as conferences. And so just recently I was talking with a friend whose fiance is actually a nurse, and he was letting me know, she's been struggling with certain things. And so I dropped some resources that I thought she might find really helpful. And he mentioned to me that she had no idea that literally any of those resources existed. So we also have a business directory on our page at chartlife.com, where again, anyone can suggest a business, anyone can add a business. And I think about 99% of these businesses are by health professionals for health professionals. So if you're looking for things specific to, mental health, you'll find resources and services listed on there. Things like Debrief in the Front Lines, things like Therapy Aid Coalition, Don't Clock Out, and other resources that are specific to health professionals. Most recently, we also offer burnout coaching and health coaching. So be sure to check us out at chartlife.com. So now let's go ahead and get into our self-care action plan. I think the first obvious question is, what is a self-care action plan? And you guys can be as interactive as you want. Please feel free to add comments, questions, anything in the chat, and I will comment on those as we go. But a self-care action plan, so an action plan in general is just a plan that you want to put in place ahead of time, right? Before disaster hits. So we're here in Charleston, South Carolina, and hurricanes are something that are, common in the area. And so we wouldn't wait until a hurricane hits to, sit there and try to create a plan to combat this. You want to put that plan into place ahead of time. So it's the same thing with a self-care action plan. This is something that you want to try to incorporate ahead of time, before that burnout, before that work-life imbalance. But even so, you can still utilize it when those things do hit, and once it kind of maybe gets a little unbearable for you. So our self-care action plan, self-care is composed of 8 different domains. And I don't know if anyone is familiar with those domains. If so, please feel free to, share in the chat those 8 domains. But basically, when you think of self-care, it usually falls under one of these 8 domains. There are 4 different steps to our self-care action plan. So the first step, and I hope that you guys can see this, there might be a little glare, but you'll have access to this actual template yourself. So the first step in our self-care action plan, of course, is rating your actual stress. So on a scale of 0 to 10, 0, of course, being no stress. And if that is you constantly, please let us know what you're doing, right? But 0 meaning no stress, 5 moderate stress, and then 10 extreme stress, like you are at wit's end, right? You need some resources. Then you're going to want to figure out what is an acceptable level of stress for you. We know that stress is something that is, actually normal, right? But too much of it can, kind of put us off balance. But what is a manageable stress level for you? What is your baseline? And once you identify that, do the two match up, or is one a little off, right? So back to those 8 domains that actually make up self-care. So there are 8 different domains that make up self-care. And in the template, there are different prompts that you can use to help identify which one of these is actually contributing the most to your stress, right? So the 8 domains, and these are in no specific order, and I hope you guys can see this too, but the domains are intellectual, environmental, physical, occupational, community, financial, and spiritual. So one of the really cool things about this template that I really appreciate is that whenever we think of self-care, it's usually specific activities that we can do, to help ourselves out. But this goes beyond just activities. So there is a short abbreviation that we use, PPA, and it stands for people, programs, and activities. Nicole says, I love this. Thank you. So people, programs, and activities. And so instead of just brainstorming, like what activity can I do? You can go beyond that and think of people, think of programs that can also contribute to your self-care. So going back to, let me pull this out. Going back to this 8 domains. So step one is you have identified your stress level, right? It's really high. And then you realize, okay, one of these domains is off. One of my 8 domains is off. Which one is it? So say you think it's occupational, right? I think that's a big one for us as health professionals, especially. So you realize that one of these domains is off, and you want to create a self-care goal around this, right? So step 3 is creating that goal, especially. So I think most of us are probably familiar with SMART goals, right? So one of the things that I hear often with health coaching and with burnout coaching is a lot of people will say, oh my goodness, at the end of the day, I just don't have the energy to work on my self-care goals. And I get that. I usually use the analogy of us being like a cell phone. So we give to our patients and our clients emotionally, physically, mentally, in all areas. So of course, at the end of the day, your energy is going to be on E. So number 1, you never want to leave your self-care goal to be the very last thing that you accomplish in the day. You want to make sure that you implement this throughout your day versus just, leaving it for the very last thing. But also, if your self-care goal feels super overwhelming all the time, maybe take a step back and think, maybe you need to break it down into smaller, more manageable parts, because that's going to help you keep your momentum up. That's going to make sure that you're more likely to achieve those goals and success. So a good rule of thumb that I always tell people whenever you're trying to craft any goal in general is something that can be achievable within a week. So sure, you may have your overarching goal, your long-term goal that you're working toward, but whenever you're actually creating those goals to do on a daily basis, you want to make sure that it's something small, something achievable. That way it doesn't become a burden. It doesn't come, it doesn't become super tedious for you as well. So we have gone through 3 of our steps. Identifying, I'm going to drill these into your heads. So step 1, identifying where your stress level is at. Step 2 is selecting which of those 8 domains, again, here are your 8 domains that make up self-care. Which one of these domains is off? Which one do you need to maybe give a little extra attention to, right? To help you get back on track. And then step 3 is actually creating that self-care goal. Now, step 4, our final step, is actually, I think, one of the most important ones. Although I think it's one that's easy to neglect, it's one that's probably often forgotten. So our 4th step is reflection. And why is reflection so important, right? So reflection is important for so many reasons. We cannot really move forward with ourselves, with our goals, and progress unless we can actually first take the time to reflect. So there are a few prompts with that, with your reflection. And the first one says, what unexpected challenges did you face this week? And that just gives you the opportunity to explore any hurdles or any obstacles that you face while trying to accomplish this. And that way you can adjust your goals from week to week so that it meets your specific needs, right? So if we were to take one of these domains, 8 domains, and try to go through and craft a self-care goal for ourselves. So again, here are our 8 domains, and let's just say occupational, because again, I think it's a big one for us as health professionals, right? So using that acronym, abbreviation, PPA, so people, program, and activities. You guys can feel free to throw something in the chat if you like, but how do you know when one of those domains is off for you? How does that manifest in your life? What sort of symptoms do you have when you realize your stress level is really, really high? I know for me personally, I may become triggered really easily. I just have, probably some personality changes. I'm more irritable, but physically it also affects my sleep. And then once my sleep is compromised, then of course your immunity is down, and it's just kind of a landslide from there, right? So that usually tells me, hey, one of those 8 domains is off. Which one of these do I need to give special attention to? And I see in the comments, Nicole says, I feel anxious when I have too many social engagements. Absolutely. And so, that's interesting that you say that, because I am definitely an introvert and more of an empath. And so when it comes to self-care, some people, it may help for them to go to another person and actually be able to have maybe a cathartic release or something that they need or support they need. But for me, nature is extremely healing. It has so many therapeutic benefits. So actually taking a step back where I can be in nature, where there aren't, any projections, where there aren't as much stimuli coming at me constantly. And that way I can meditate, I can pray, whatever I need to do to help pour back into myself is what works. So thank you so much for sharing that, Nicole. So again, just briefly, our 4 steps are: step 1, rating your actual stress level and identifying what your baseline is. That is the first step you want to take in your self-care action plan. Then second is identifying which of these 8 domains is off for you. Which one do you need to give special attention to, right? Step 3 is crafting a self-care goal around that, right? And again, you want to make sure that your goal is achievable within a week. You don't want anything, super big where it's hard to achieve, where it becomes burdensome, and, it's just another task to check off your list. And then, of course, step 4, and like I said, is our very important step, but time for reflection. So if we were to look at, emotionally, or really any of those goals. So I was talking with a friend recently, and she crafts her goals, using people, programs, and activities. And one of the things that she really genuinely enjoys doing, in her job, she's a nurse as well, is giving bed baths, right? And so she actually challenged herself to give as many bed baths as possible, at least one a shift. Because, I know sometimes when I get home, the first thing I want to do is, get in the shower and then relax. And so there are just so many therapeutic benefits to that, and just the sheer joy that it brings her patient, the sheer joy and comfort that she gets from, doing that. It's just kind of a win-win benefit for both, right? So she has challenged herself in that way to try and accomplish that goal. Anybody have any questions or comments or anything surrounding any of those? Please feel free to toss it in the chat. I know that our jobs can take from us, in so many ways again. And it's easy to, like I said, leave your self-care goals for the very, very last thing. But again, you want to really make sure that you try to incorporate these within your day. It's really a lifestyle change, right? You want to fill your cup now before it gets empty. A self-care action plan is a proactive and an intentional approach to self-care. So they say that success isn't a byproduct of skill, but it all hinges on your habits. So success isn't a byproduct of your skills. Rather, it is a byproduct of your habits. So that just goes to say that it's those small everyday steps that we try to take that's going to help us succeed. Nicole says, when you mention programs, what exactly do you mean? Like developing a program for yourself? So that's a good question. So again, with the PPA, an acronym, people, programs, and activities. So when it comes to programs, that's the beauty of it. It can really be as broad or as small as you want. So it would probably be a little easier to find programs that are already in place. So if it's something like mentally you're struggling and you're needing support, then you can craft a self-care goal around finding a program, a support group that can meet your needs. But also, I think around this time of year, we've got lots of holiday parties and things like that going on, right? And so I think it's even helpful sometimes to attend things like that, You can be with your colleagues in a completely separate environment, something that, where you can let your hair down, where you can really connect with each other on a one-to-one basis, in a community setting. But great question, Nicole. I love family get-togethers, says Shelley. Yes, absolutely. That's another great way to exercise self-care. Again, these goals can be exactly what you need. That's the beauty of it. So if it's something that you need to improve upon in one of those 8 dimensions, you can use it in that way. If it's maybe setting healthy boundaries with a person, you can use it in that way. You can use it, like Shelley said, to connect with your family. And, that's a great way to pour back into yourself, to balance to help that imbalance, that work-life imbalance. Use those things that bring you joy. Use those things that help sustain you and replenish you. So we are moving right along. We're at 18 minutes already. But I wanted to quickly go over our recipient for our healthcare giveaway. And so I've got the names already right here, and I'm just going to choose one so that it's live and that it's fair. And our recipient is Kelsey G. I don't know if Kelsey is here tonight, but Kelsey, there will be an email sent out to you. And so we have these cute little decals that are included. This says Santa's favorite healthcare worker. So you can decorate your workspace with these, decorate your vehicle, whatever you fancy. It also includes one free 60-minute health coaching session and a gift card of your choice. So our gift cards include options like, the regular things like Amazon, but also you have the option of supporting some of those businesses on our business directory that are specific to health professionals. So there will be an email sent out to you shortly where you can get more information on that. And last but not least, if you would like to access this template so that you can create your own self-care action plan, you can personalize it to fit your needs. You can do that in one of two ways. So one, you can check out the link in our bio, and it just says self-care action plan. You can access it there, but also you can find it at chartlife.com. And select resources on the tabs and scroll down to probably the middle of the page, and you'll see affirmations and resources. And again, you will see the self-care action plan there. So guys, that is pretty much everything that I have. If anyone has any more questions, comments, anything, please be sure to let me know. I'll hang